go. Getting close. Doesn't it feel like the Super Bowl when you have this much time between the game and the last game and the current game? And you do have heavyweights, so I feel like there's more talk around what's going down. Yeah, it's not just the teams, it's the names.
Agreed.
It's the star power.
I wrote about it the other day. I told on Twitter, I said, listen, people, I hope you appreciate what you're seeing right now in Major League Baseball. Some of the best hitters ever to play this game. And I had this conversation with my high school coach the other day, old high school coach, and he just retired, old man. And I said, listen, these are some of the best hitters in our generation we're going to ever see. You put them back in the early 90s, in the mid-90s, in the late 90s, they probably would have 80 home runs. No guy, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but they would dominate the sport. It doesn't matter what age you're talking about. These guys are the most dominant hitters we are going to see and might never see ever again, if you want the truth, because you got the Otanis of the world, Mookie Betts, Aaron Judges, Sotos, Giancarlo Stanton's, whose playoff is just absolutely insanity.
Tommy Edman.
Tommy who? Yeah.
Tommy Tank.
Hey, there's two big Tommies. Tommy Caneley's and Tommy Edmonds. So this is going to be I think it's going to be an incredible World Series. And I'm telling you right now, people, sit back and watch. Stay up late. I know some of the games might be a little later. Have your kids stay up. I don't care. They'll be tired in the morning, but you'll be grateful for it, knowing that they watched some of the top 10 players to ever play this game this year, some of these top 10 guys. It's absolutely incredible.
That's true, actually. I was definitely in that boat growing up, even when I was really young, staying up late, whether I had to talk myself into it or sneak into another room to watch a game.
Of course.
Right? Everyone knows. And I always remember those types of games. You know what I don't remember? The next day.
No.
Doesn't matter. You don't get this very often. No. So enjoy it. Let it soak in. So we might as well get right to it then. We'll just dive into the series with Todd Father's perspective here. We'll be with Todd Father the next few days, getting ready for Friday's game 1 of the World Series. So let's charge the damn mound.
Charging the mound.
All right, so let's take this turn first. We had our watch party the other day with Vinny Pasquantino, who, do you know him? Do you know him personally?
Not really.
Seen him?
No, just seen him.
Gosh,
we've interviewed him here before.
Yeah, we've interviewed him here. This is your guy. He is Vinny Todd Father in the way that he talks about the game. He's got strong takes, not afraid to tell it like it is. There's a Jersey flair or New York flair, whatever you want to call it, to it, a Northeast flair to it. So anyway, we'll start with a tweet from him yesterday. He talked about this on our watch party, which again, I encourage people to check out even after the fact, because we were mostly just going over life with Brent Rooker and Vinny Pasquantino and Bobby Witt Jr. and Lawrence Butler and Mason Miller and on and on.
Awesome.
So Vinny said, I love baseball fans. Unhappy it's Dodgers Yankees for a multitude of reasons, but if it was a 3-6 seed to make the World Series, the system would be flawed because the 1-2 teams lost because of the bye. I think we are simply proving that no one is happy with anything. Bingo. Or how about this? Not everyone roots for the same things in life in general, right? People disagree. We're in a free country, so I'm all about it. But it is funny. I mean, we talked about this yesterday, Kratz, but we don't get Yankees, Dodgers all the time. We don't get our superstars in the biggest stage all the time. On the Hot Sheet show I did yesterday on the Baseball America YouTube channel with JJ Cooper and Jeff Ponce, we went over MLB versus NBA and ratings and how it differs and how the World Series ratings might actually beat NBA finals ratings this year based on the teams and the superstars involved. But I reiterated the point that we don't get to see Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani, etc. forget the World Series. We didn't get to see either of them in the playoffs last year.
And now we do. So we need to appreciate this. And as baseball fans, again, he said baseball fans. He didn't say Kansas City Royal fans, you guys are so mad. Or New York Mets fans, why are you always so just baseball fans. And I think this is a perfect stage for all baseball fans to come together in the sense that, I get it. You might hate the Dodgers if you're a Padres fan. If you're a Giants fan, you might hate the Yankees if you're a Red Sox fan, or, they might be the most hated team out there. But It's an opportunity to come together and see why we watch the WBC, why we think the Olympics should have the grown-ups in it, why the Olympics should have big leaguers in it, because we want to see the best players on the same stage. And we're fortunate that's what this series is giving us. And it's not because they had more money than everybody else. It's because this team is the team that is able to win, and we don't get this every year. We may never get it again. You may never see another Shohei, Aaron Judge matchup.
Spot on.
It's unlikely
that
you're going to get guys matching up in a World Series. We haven't had repeat winners since the Yanks way back in the day. You are going to have hate watchers too, and that's fine. I mean, I'm sure we have some here, right? You're going to have some people that are like, oh, I hate these teams. I can't stand either of them. They buy all the good players. I do want to throw this out there because I wanted to get your thoughts. Aaron Judge, good player, developed by the Yankees, re-signed by the Yankees. Shohei Ohtani hits free agency, seemed like he wanted to go to LA all along, as in the Dodgers, and gets plenty of money to go there. Here's Matthew. My heart wants the Dodgers, but my head says Yankees. It's been a thing. I'm with you. You're a new empire. We're going to see how a real empire looks. Okay. I'm just reading some fan comments. But correct me if I'm wrong. Juan Soto, this past offseason, was on the trade block. The Padres essentially said he's guaranteed to get traded, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So he was on what's left of a contract now that's got the last year that he's about to hit free agency and $30-something million. Pretty sure anybody could have fit Juan Soto on their team if they paid the prospect or trade package price, which was nice for the Padres. Obviously, Michael King was a dude this year. Higashioka had an awesome year, and they got some other pitchers involved in that trade. But other teams could have matched that. I mean, the easy target for me always is Seattle, Kratz, where I'm like, there were some younger, controllable starters that probably would have had more value than that whole package together last offseason. And they might not have wanted to trade any of those guys, but if they did want to significantly boost and improve their offense, they could have had Soto for a season. They could have fit him, but they chose not to. So it's not like the Yankees just beat everyone and paid this guy $600 million. That might come this offseason. But for this year, he was up for grabs.
Anybody could have had him. Baltimore Orioles. Never have enough offense. Like it doesn't matter. Like if you're not willing to part with money because you say your organization doesn't have enough, okay. But you're also holding on to those prospects now like their money, like they're supposed to be your future. We don't know. We talked about it yesterday. You don't know when your elimination game is going to be. You do everything you can to be at this point and push all your chips in to make it to the World Series every single time. And pushing all your chips in looks different. Some teams, they're going to spend money to do it. The Dodgers did a great job of spending money this offseason, and they put themselves in a position to be where they're at. The Yankees did a good job of purchasing Juan Soto with other types of capital. Every team could have done that. And I think that's, you brought that up yesterday or this morning when we were talking, Scott. You're like, everybody could have had him. And it's so true. And if you're a fan of a team that has prospect capital and didn't spend it and didn't go get Juan Soto, and you were close to making the playoffs, making the World Series, you should say shame on your organization, and you should turn your hate back on your organization, not on the New York Yankees or the LA Dodgers.
Yeah, and big or small. That's my point. Big or small.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what team you are. You can easily make cases for not going after certain free agencies if you're a fan of a team in a smaller market, right, that has ownership that doesn't like to spend much. But anybody could have fit a player like this for one season. Anybody. Let's bring in Max Muncy's quotes on Yanks Dodgers. As a fan of baseball, I mean, how could you not be excited about this? You're talking about two of the biggest franchises, the biggest stars in the sport. You've got Shohei, Freddie, Mookie. On the other side, you've got Judge, Giancarlo, Soto, Cole, the big game's biggest stars on the actual biggest stage. How could you not be excited about this as a fan? It's going to be a battle for both teams. We're going to have to do things the right way. Can't make any mistakes, but as a fan, how could you not be excited for this? Also, by the way, did either of you see his quotes about kind of stepping aside from fam for the next few weeks and just focusing on, you didn't see that?
No.
Oh, it was good. Hold on, I'll cue it up while you guys
Well,
chat.
before you read what it is, Todd, how much were you locked into your family when we were in the playoffs? Besides, like, hey, you know what? You go home, you see them, you see the wife. Like, how much were you locked in? My family was with us during all the playoffs that I ever was a part of, except for 2017 with the Yankees. They were not with me. But the other times they were with me, and I still felt like I was kind of disconnected from them.
Yeah, a little bit for sure. I mean, because for one, you understand, you don't know how many opportunities you're going to get to make a World Series or win a playoff series, postseason series. So, yeah, I was there, but I kind of wasn't. Playing with the kids, tippy-toeing around the house, didn't want to trip over any toys. It's like you had to be extra careful about everything, and but wouldn't change it for the world. And I think the kids would understand that too, as well as they get older. But your wife does. I mean, my wife did. It's understandable. Hey, listen, I'm going to the field early. You got this. Any problems, hit me up. And she understood.
You want the quote here, Kratz?
Yeah, I want to hear the quote. But then a story. Go ahead.
Okay. I need 3 weeks out of you to be with the boys, and then you can be the best father and husband you can be. His message to the Dodgers clubhouse ahead of the 2024 postseason.
Wow.
I like it.
That's good.
That's good. Really good. I like that a lot.
What's your story?
Raul Ibanez's daughter, I think, had her birthday before Game 1 of the World Series. We're getting ready to play the Giants 2014. And they have the birthday party at one of those like jump it up bounce zones things with the trampolines and everything. So the kids are all bouncing around and we're all kind of just like sitting around. Hammer, Ty Willingham, he like goes on it, and his boys are a little bit older than my boys. He starts bouncing. We get up on the trampoline. We start bouncing. Before you know it, like 20 minutes in, we're just bouncing from trampoline to trampoline, throwing these dodgeballs, like sweating, just dripping sweat the day before Game 1 of the World Series. Next day, Hammer comes in. He's like, oh my gosh, my back is so tight. He's like, I think the trampoline was a bad idea. And I'm like, what were we thinking? Game 1 of the World Series, and we're out here jump it up or whatever it's called.
What?
Wow.
Could have been bad.
Yeah,
it could have been bad.
Yeah.
It's extra hot tub, extra red hot, all that good stuff.
But also no trampoline right before the World Series.
Yep.
What are you thinking?
Did anyone say anything?
No, because Hammer was really the only one that was really bouncing. I mean, at that point, Raul was like 40, 42 or 43. So he's like, I'm not getting up on there. My old body's not coming out of that. But Hammer was really the only one. And he was kind of a bench guy. Like, we were joking afterwards. He's like, we don't play anyway. It's okay. But
you better hope not.
He ended up being fine.
Wait, and also, did you say Ty Willingham or did you mean Josh?
Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. I added Ty Wigginton and Josh Willingham.
And Josh Willingham. And you
Josh Willingham,
with
I'm
the
sorry.
former. Wait,
yeah.
When you combine those names, he came up with the former Notre Dame coach.
Oh
I think
God!
He's still coach. I don't know. I don't pay attention.
I don't either, but that's incredible.
You know what I'm talking about? Ty Willingham.
Yep.
Remember? But I heard that combo, and I was like, someone's going to point that out.
This guy's a beast.
Josh Willingham. Josh Willingham.
Josh Willingham.
Bad teammate.
Boom.
Bad teammate.
That's okay. You're great. You're great. All right. So 2 quick things, and then we're going to talk a little Mets with Tim Britton. But number one, someone did correctly identify the 2 teams that we're going to be matching up in the World Series, and that person is Out of the Park Baseball 25.
All right.
Which was part of the predictions, but also a real human being. But great job to them. That simulation game is incredible at picking World Series winners and matchups. But Todd Father right here had Yanks Dodgers. He chalked it up, and he was right.
It's been a year for me, man.
It's
been a really good year. You know, if I got a second, I'd like to thank God first and foremost, my family, friends, and this whole foul territory production. Couldn't have done it without you guys. Thank you.
We really appreciate that. So we'd also like to give some love to our production team behind the scenes that'll be putting together these post-game shows.
Yes.
So make sure you check those out, starting with Game 1 of the World Series on Friday. We'll have our post-game breakdown. Derek will be live with Pinstripe Territory for the Yanks perspective. Dodgers Territory has the LA perspective after Game 1, and we have the national perspective on FT. And also you can probably catch both, either afterward, you get one, then you get the other. They're all on demand on YouTube, of course. And we'll probably go a little longer. We tend to talk a lot. So check that out after Game 1 on Friday. We'll do these all next week as well. We'll have watch parties, maybe one next week. We'll keep you posted on the schedule. And lastly, let's get to a quickie break. Support for Foul Territory is brought to you by Huel, the world's #1 complete nutrition brand with over 400 million meals sold worldwide. Yes, it's trusted by millions of people looking to fuel their days with convenient, complete nutrition, like the resident house workout machine, Erik Kratz, everyone's favorite bodyguard, who drinks a little black edition of Huel on a day like today.
A little vanilla.
So easy. I'm going to smack one right after this. It's a Tuesday. I've got practice. Already worked out today. Get my Huel right before practice. Ooh, the boys are going to get some stuff done at practice today, let me tell you.
That's right. It's good taste. It's ready to drink. You just shake it up. You're good to go. It's 15% off with the code FOUL, F-O-U-L, when you go to Huel.com. That's the code that you're going to enter. That's 15% off, Huel.com. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. It's nutritionally complete meals in minutes so that you can focus on what really matters. And it's got 35 grams of protein, 27 vitamins and minerals, all in that little bottle, the black edition, ready to drink, and very affordable too. High protein meals starting at just $2.50. Budget-friendly options for you. Go check it out, FT fam. All right, here we go. Let's bring first guest of the day on FT. He is senior writer at The Athletic covering the New York Mets, and I bet his season coverage lasted a little bit longer than anticipated. Tim Britton joining us right now on FT. Tim, great to have you on, and have you taken a second to take a breath and look back at everything that just happened with the New York Mets, from the amazing run they had and the, would say, entertaining components of their season that kept popping up?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I did have to cancel a vacation that we had planned for the second week of October, which we had planned, sometime in May, thinking that, we don't have to worry too much about that time of the year when the team's 11 under 500. I was actually just talking with, my coworker, Will Salmon. We're planning a story for later in the week about like all of the crazy things that happened in 2024. And there's some that he's bringing up. And I'm like, man, that was this year? I don't remember Julio Teheran starting and winning a game for the Mets in Atlanta back in April. There's so many ridiculous things that happened for the Mets this year, and so many of them packed into really the last several weeks, starting with that doubleheader in Atlanta, that this has become, I think, as memorable a season as the Mets have had, maybe even more memorable than the World Series run that they made in 2015. For this fan base, it's been a wild ride.
Listen, it was a wild ride. It was incredible. I wanted a Subway Series more than anybody else. I thought that would have been awesome, but we'll set it for East meets West. I think that's great too as well. Talk about the Mets here, looking at the free agents. Wow. 2, 4, 6, 10 free agents. Some big names. Well, I mean, one I always look out for, Pete Alonso, man. What do you see his future? And talk a little about, what the Mets are looking for. I know it's early, but Pete's a big name.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the number one question around this team, really dating back to last offseason, is what is the future for Pete Alonso? We saw there seemed to be this chance that his Mets tenure was going to peter out in like the worst way possible. When he's coming to the plate in Milwaukee, that Game 3 of the Wild Card Series, he's 5 for his last 40 with no extra base hits. You're thinking he could ground into a double play and that could be it for him. And instead he hits an opposite field 3-run homer, extends the season, gets on a little run himself in the National League Division Series against Philadelphia, hits another big 3-run homer against the Dodgers in the NLCS. So has a really good postseason. It kind of reminds people after, kind of a down season, a season that's not up to his standards. It's hard to say any season with 34 home runs is a down season. Remind people what he means to this lineup when he's clicking in the middle of it. The lineup has changed over the last couple of years where they're not as reliant on him as its only power source. Back in 2022, he hit almost like a quarter of their home runs. This year it was about 16% of their home runs. So they've got more power around him. But the Mets have been steadfast since last offseason. Basically, they're running the Brandon Nimmo playbook with him. And Alonso's running the same thing. Like, he hired Scott Boras before his last year, the same way Brandon Nimmo did. The Mets have not really negotiated any extension with him. They basically said, you go out and see what you can get. And then we'll be interested in matching it at a certain number. Scott Boras has said, Pete Alonso should get Prince Fielder money or Mark Teixeira money. That the Freddie Freeman contract would not be enough. We'll see how that works on the open market if there is a team that's willing to go to that extent for Alonso. I don't think the Mets are that team, but if the market comes back to where they view it, which is probably more in that kind of Paul Goldschmidt contract range from his extension with St. Louis, then maybe they can get something done.
Is the play of Pete Alonso going to keep him in the postseason, going to keep him in New York? Or is the play of Mark Vientos in the postseason going to push Pete Alonso out of New York?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other really interesting component of this is Vientos had such a breakthrough season, a regular season, and then on top of it was their best and most consistent hitter in the postseason, and is probably not a long-term third baseman. He played third base better than I think anyone expected this season. I had heard from scouts for years, this guy cannot play third base at the major league level, and he did this year and was probably just slightly below league average defender there, made a lot of really nice plays over the course of the season. But if you sign Pete Alonso to a 5 or 6 year deal, what does that mean for Mark Vientos' long-term future defensively? Is it at third base for all of that stretch of time? Is it moving one of those guys to DH down the line? I think that's the other component of this because the Mets have a lot of moving pieces on their infield. A lot of their prospects coming up are second baseman, third baseman. Like, they still have Brett Beatty. They've got Ronnie Mauricio coming off a torn ACL. They've got Luis Angel Acuna, who debuted late in the season. So they've got a lot of different pieces there, but when you're in a win-now position, you don't necessarily want to hand over an everyday job to someone in that position.
Listen, we're talking about position players. In my opinion, I feel like they need some pitching. I get it. You need both sides of the spectrum of baseball, but I feel like they need to get their bullpen a little better. I feel like Kodai Senga's, he's going to be their top guy, but after that, talk to me. Like, who's going to be, 3, 4, and 5?
Yeah, I mean, you look at what their rotation is right now coming back. It would be Senga, David Peterson, who had a really nice year for them. Paul Blackburn, we just found out today, is going to be out through parts of spring training. The guy they picked up at the trade deadline and got hurt pretty promptly. And then Tyler McGill, who's kind of, a depth option for them. But they've got to replace Sean Manaea, who's, I think, almost certainly going to opt out of what he's got left on his deal. They've got to replace Luis Severino, and they've got to replace Jose Quintana. 3 guys that they got so much more out of than they expected coming into the year, not just in terms of performance, but in terms of innings. Those guys all threw close to 100 innings more than they had thrown in 2023, which is a pretty insane stat. And you can see that they kind of just ran out of gas in the NLCS against that insane Dodgers lineup. So I think, Manaea is a guy that they'd be interested in bringing back at a certain price point. He is 33. I don't think they want to sign him to a 5-year deal, but if there's a 3-year deal that makes sense, I think that could work for both sides. Severino, I think they'll extend the qualifying offer and see whether that works for him or what's available on the market. And then, they've got room financially. They've got a lot of money coming off the payroll. If they want to make a bigger investment, whether that's Corbin Burns, who David Stearns has familiarity with from his time in Milwaukee, whether that's Max Fried or Blake Snell or Jack Flaherty, other guys who are on the free agent market, whether it's trading for Garrett Crochet, I think adding to the top of their rotation, they've got some nice mid-rotation to back-end rotation guys. Adding to the top of it is probably the priority coming into this year, and something they knew last year, if they didn't get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, the one guy they tried to get big time in free agency, that they were going to have to address this offseason.
You said about Severino getting a qualifying offer. Pete Alonso is going to get a qualifying offer. Sean Manaea should get a qualifying offer when he opts out of his player option. Are they afraid of giving that many qualifying offers out? Or in a market like the Mets, is that not even an issue?
Yeah, I don't think it's really an issue for them. They clearly Alonso and Manaea I don't think would accept the qualifying offer. Severino could, decide that's, I don't know that who's going to get a 3 or 4 year deal worth the same average annual value as the QO. But I still think it's probably likelier than not that he turns it down. And hey, if you're the Mets, the worst case scenario is you've got a pretty good mid-rotation starter back and maybe a little bit more than you want to spend for him. And this is a team that they've got the luxury to do that if they want to. There's really no really bad 1-year deal that they could sign. And we saw how many the one-year deals that David Stearns signed last offseason click for them and be a really important part of this team going where it did in the postseason.
Tim, I know you mentioned a lot coming off the books. It looks like close to $200 million off the books. I think in the 190 range. That gets them down to about, I think, 160-ish committed for next year at the moment. Obviously, a lot of holes to fill, though, with all the free agents we're talking about. But did you get any sense that they won't go back to the range where they're at, right? David Stearns is cut from a different cloth with Milwaukee, where he was operating with a very tiny budget. He just took over this team. He made some really great moves, like you mentioned. But do you think, I'll just put this up there. What's the over-under if I put it at $300 million? Do you think that the Mets payroll next year for a single season will be over or under that number? Because I'm wondering if they felt like that's not necessarily the answer since, the Scherzer and Verlanders of the world didn't work out for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd probably take under, just spitballing it right now. The luxury tax is $241. I think they'd go over that pretty easily. They've got, like you said, they've got a lot of holes to fill, even with what they've got guaranteed on the books right now. But so much of what they spent this past year was on players who were not on the team. They were spending a lot on Verlander, on Scherzer, on James McCann. It was about $55 to $60 million on players who were no longer on the roster. They don't have any of those commitments next year. So they've got room to go pretty far. And we saw a willingness last year. Like, they offered Yamamoto $325 million. They were willing to go that far for a player they really liked. I think that's instructive when you think about how they might approach Juan Soto, a guy who's in his prime. Yamamoto's going to be 25, Soto's going to be 26, and that's the guy they really targeted last year. I think that's the guy that they'll really target this year and see what they can do in probably a bidding war with the other team in town. So I think Steve Cohen has said that he knows that the way to long-term sustainability is not signing 39-year-old future Hall of Fame pitchers every year, but I don't think that means he's not going to spend as freely as he has in the past.
And again, I know it's early, but the season just ended, so immediately Mets fans are riding high, and they're like, cool, we weren't even supposed to be that good this year. The playoffs was a bonus at all, and the fact that we got 2 wins away from the World Series is sick. So let's see what this offseason looks like. So just to double down on what you said with Soto, what do you think are the chances that they pursue him, not just because of who he is, but because of what the market looks like? You don't get a player like this available almost ever that is this good and this young. And when you look to future seasons, there aren't tons of 26-year-old superstars that are hitting the market. And I do think someone like David Stearns is super into a player like this because he feels like he's still going to get value for many years to come based on what age projections have, in models that most front offices use these days, right? It's much riskier to sign a player who's 30, 31 years old and see what, you get with a player in their mid to upper 30s. So do you think that because of that, it causes them to lead even more into the Juan Soto bucket?
Absolutely. I mean, you look at last offseason, there's a reason the Mets were so aggressive on Yamamoto, a pitcher who had never been in the major leagues, versus like Aaron Nola, who they were not interested in at all, a guy who had been in their division and pitched really, really well for a long stretch of time. So it was all about getting the prime years locked in. Yamamoto was going to be 25. You don't get 25-year-old pitchers on the free agent market ever. And Soto, is going to be 26. It's the same deal, just amplified to the nth degree because of what he's done in the major leagues over the course of his career, what he's doing right now for the Yankees. He's shown, he's checked every box you could have if you're the Mets. He's shown that he can be a great regular season player. He's shown he can be the exact kind of hitter they could use in their lineup. They could use a left-handed bat. They've got some room in the corner outfield if they need it. He's shown he can play in New York. He's shown he can play under pressure situations. I don't know what else you would want to see from Juan Soto to make him worthwhile of a pursuit if you're the Mets right now. So I think, this goes back to like 2001 when Alex Rodriguez was out there for the Mets. That's the kind of hype I think the fan base has around this to see if they can go after that kind of player, that kind of franchise cornerstone to add to what's already a pretty nice mix.
Does a season like this make Mets fans not fear Metting? Or is that just always going to be in the back of their mind, like, oh, until we win a World Series championship again, like, it's always going to be a fearful thing? Or how they built this team and kind of like not even trying to build this team type of thing? Like, does that give Mets fans more hope, or was it the entire postseason of, well, when's the next problem going to happen? When are we going to Met?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always going to be a segment of the fan base that is concerned about the Mets going full Met or whatever you want to call it. But I think a majority of the fan base really bought into this team, especially in the month of September and late in the season. And I've been pleasantly surprised by just how happy fans have been, even after the Game 6 loss the other night. There was not too much complaining about this managerial move or this player not coming through in the clutch. There was just a kind of enjoyment of what they had gone through over the past several months, really dating back to the end of May. So I think you've got to stack those years on each other before you fully, forget all of that. Like I covered the Red Sox before this, it didn't all disappear with 2004. You got to have another good year in 2005, win another World Series in 2007 before you kind of reframe people's brains and how they view the team. But I think the Mets, under David Stearns, under Carlos Mendoza, this was as good a first year as you could have hoped for if you're a Mets fan, and it really encourages you for what they can be in the future.
I have a question about the pitching. So how did they do this? Because that's by far the most shocking component to me of what they were able to put together. I truly thought the offense was going to be good. I'm sure it was better than I anticipated in most others, but especially down the stretch. But the pitching is what stands out. You look at what they cobbled together, and you're like, okay, maybe one or two of these guys will hit, right? You're like, okay, maybe Severino will bounce back, or maybe Minaya. I mean, you certainly don't expect everybody to kind of all put it together. And then we're even going down the line like, David Peterson is this good suddenly? A guy who definitely had stuff and was a first-round pick, I think, years back, but you never saw him put it all together. So is there anything that you can point to from an organizational and coaching and development perspective? Because that also ties into what we look at going forward. So as good as the starting pitching was, Tim, obviously the bullpen faded down the stretch too. And it wasn't a World Series winning bullpen in my mind, maybe anyone's mind. So I'm curious, based off your first answer, does that lead this team to say, hey, we're going to David Stearns it like Milwaukee did and have these no names that emerge in the bullpen, or are they going to spend money in that department too?
Yeah, I think to answer the first question, you go back to the last year and a half. They hired Eric Jagers to be their director of pitching development, a guy who's well regarded in the industry. Bring him in, they start their pitching lab, and I think there's just a better sense now for what they want to get out of their pitchers, developing a plan and getting the most out of them. So with a guy like Severino, it was bringing in a sinker that he hadn't thrown in several years to get him quicker contact, make him more effective against right-handed batters, and that became the pitch for him. Allowed him to go a lot deeper into games and pitch the number of innings that he did over the course of the season. With Peterson, it was a matter of getting him healthy after hip surgery in the offseason and just, getting a better mindset of attacking the opponents. Minaya obviously made the arm slot change, which was more his idea than anyone with the Mets. But once he decided to do that, they were fully behind it and helped him extract the most out of himself that he could with a midseason change like that. So I think, I wrote in September, it's nice that these guys have all done this, and you're a little worried, like, well, they're all going to be free agents basically. But now you can take what you've accomplished with them and you can pitch it to free agent pitchers and say, hey, look what we did with Luis Severino. Look what we did with Sean Minaya. If you want your 1-year contract, why don't you come here to Queens and see what we can do with you? And that's a really good place to be in as an organization. And they can apply that to the bullpen as well. They've got some arms in there that they did really well with. A guy like Reed Garrett, who had been kind of on waiver claims back and forth for a while, emerged as an important arm for them and had a great April. Kind of tailed off from that point, but was an important guy for them down the stretch. So they've been able to figure out how to get the most out of what they have. Now they just probably have to raise the floor of that bullpen in particular this offseason because they've got so many free agents there. Kind of rebuild it a little bit, and then so that the guys you're bringing in and developing over the course of the season aren't your 8th inning guys. They're your 6th and 7th inning guys to help get the ball to Edwin Diaz and others in the back end. You
said they built a pitching lab at the minor league complex, right?
Yeah. That opened, I think, June of last year.
So how did that help the big league team?
Well, so last off season they were running guys through there. So they were
running Severino, Sean Minaya, David Peterson, who was in rehab. I think it's a narrative that sometimes if we just put all this money into tech, that's 4 or 5 years from now that they're going to start getting prospects. To me, Jeremy Hefner should be mentioned as a guy that took big league vets and helped them get the most out of them, whether it was their decision or not. I just want to know how the correlation of the minor league pitching lab correlates to the big league success this year.
Yeah, so at the end of last season, they sent every healthy pitcher in the organization went down to the pitching lab. So that included guys like Kodai Senga. That included guys like Tyler McGill and Reed Garrett and other guys we mentioned. A guy like Severino, he worked with Hefner individually over the course of the offseason. He went to Driveline, and I had gone to Driveline the year prior after the 22 postseason with San Diego and continued to work with those guys. So you're absolutely right. Hefner is a huge part of this. What he was able to do, kind of connecting with each different guy individually over the course of the season and figuring out how best to get the most out of them. And it's not just that they pitched well and pitched as deep into the season as they did. There was a real camaraderie that developed that you don't often see with a bunch of guys on one-year deals about to hit free agency again. We saw them, they're painting eye black with the starting pitcher's number on their face that night. Luis Severino, on the flight home from LA to New York, he flies to New York early ahead of the team, had 59 eye black on the commercial flight that he flew to Queens. So you had that going on for them as well. So it was, it was probably a 99th percentile outcome for their starting rotation in particular this season. But it does bode well for what they can get out of guys moving forward, how they can pitch themselves to prospective pitchers in free agency. And then if they want to add a big name on top of that, well, then you feel really good about the rotation moving forward.
I want to go back real quick about the Mets versus Dodgers. Could they have done anything differently? I look back on one thing, and to me, starting Kodai Senga that first game, just because, listen, he gave up the home run against Philly, and then, he had two really good innings after that. I mean, maybe it was a little like, all right, well, we got him back, instead of being like, okay, maybe we need to hinder him back. Was there anything you think they could have done a little thing differently that could have helped them, get close to winning this series?
I think if there is one thing you want to point to, it's probably that. I see it from both sides because, Senga, the reason they started him in game one of the division series was it was either him or McGill, who's kind of their fifth starter. So it made sense to roll the dice with Senga and see what you had there. In the NLCS against LA, they had Severino rested, they had Minaya rested, so they could have gone with either of those guys in game one. And I think going into the series, I expected it to be Minaya. As the series progressed, you saw kind of why they probably waited with those guys. And it's because of the fatigue they'd experienced. That Minaya had pitched on 4 days of rest the entire month of September. He had thrown a lot of pitches. And they just thought that he was hitting a wall. And he mentioned it himself after game two that he hit a wall in the sixth inning of that game when he was pitching well. That they thought he needed the extra day of rest more than anyone. So that's why they went with Senga in game one, was to give those guys who had carried them for so long the extra day. It did, it obviously backfired the worst way possible in that, Senga doesn't pitch well. You use Peterson for a lot of pitches. He doesn't pitch well. And then you can't bring him back in relief when you might have really needed him in game 3 or game 4 behind your starter. So that got them behind the 8 ball from really the jump in the series. But when you lose, 4 games by, I think all of them by at least 5 runs, it's tough to point to one managerial decision or one organizational decision and say, well, that would have fixed giving up 46 runs in 6 games.
Okay, then I'll go to another managerial decision. Should Jesse Winker have gotten more at-bats? Or, which swung it more, bringing Phil Maton into too many games after it seemed like he was struggling?
Yeah, I think with Winker, I think in retrospect, you can definitely say he should have started game 3 at least, which is against Walker Buehler. I understand sitting the lefty against Yamamoto because of his really, really pronounced reverse splits. And I think Martinez got on base twice in that game. I'd have to look back. But Winker was a difference maker in their lineup just because of, we talked all series about how the Dodgers didn't chase. And Winker is that guy on the Mets. He's the guy who does not leave the strike zone and makes the starting pitcher work. So I think, in retrospect, I think even Carlos Mendoza would probably tell you that maybe we should have gone with Winker in game 3. With Maton, I trace that more back to like the end of the regular season. You go to that final weekend in Milwaukee, and he pitched, they pitched him and Edwin Diaz in a 5-0 game on that final Sunday of the regular season, which set them back for the Monday doubleheader in Atlanta, which sets them back for the wild card series. So I think Maton, at one point he was used 4 out of 5 days that week. And from that point forward, he just didn't have it. And he talked about it openly. Like, he's not a guy who throws 98. He's not going to blow the ball by you in the strike zone. He relies on the precise execution, location of his pitches. And when you're tired, that's the first thing to go. That even more so than his velocity. And so he was just a different guy in the division series in LCS because of how much he'd been used down the stretch.
Man, he was fun to watch too, Winker. He was fun. He was embracing the villain role. Obviously now, he's beloved in Milwaukee. I'm kidding, but in Queens. So yeah, I hope you had a good time covering him. Right? I mean, he's a fun guy to cover. You'll get a soundbite from him if you catch him on the right day. Right?
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite quotes of the postseason was someone asked Carlos Mendoza before, I think, Game 3 in Milwaukee, do you think this series might mean a little more to Winker because of the way the crowd has treated him here? Mendoza just deadpan like, oh, is this different from anywhere else? Like they boo him everywhere we go.
Yeah.
When I walk by him in the hallway, I boo him. That's how I greet him. I think Winker brings that different kind of edge to a roster and a lineup, and I think that that's a reason why there might be a match here longer term beyond this season because of the way he played down the stretch. He's said all along, like, it was a dream come true to play for this team, and he would love to extend that relationship beyond the season.
Hey, there's some players that are fueled by that, and we have one on our show quite frequently who enjoyed that, who lived and thrived off that, and Pierzynski. So, Tim, awesome coverage, really great reading everything that you were bringing to the table in The Athletic. Thanks for swinging by right after the season. And lastly, did you reschedule the vacation? Do you get to go now, just like a little later on?
We might try it in the spring. It was up to Maine. Maine is not the greatest place to go in November and December, so we'll figure out a different time to do that.
Confirmed, winter is coming to the Northeast and especially even further up. We're in Jersey, but in Maine, it's getting chilly. So, Tim, thanks, man. Enjoy the off season.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. At Tim Britton on Twitter to give him a follow. Senior writer at The Athletic, covering the Mets. Tons of great articles. And then for our podcast purposes, we've got our Metsed Up hosts running ship all off season long. They're going to have a lot to cover. As you just heard, the Mets are going to spend. So our guys will be all over it. Draftneck Mark and James with your coverage. Just search Metsed Up wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're on YouTube, go for it. We like saving people money, right?
We always.
I feel like that's part of the brand partnerships deals
without a doubt
put together with places, because we're like, hey, how can we figure out more ways to save the FT fam money? So let's give a little love to Mint Mobile. If you check out mintmobile.com/territory, you can find out that 3-month plans are starting at only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. That means you can call Erik Kratz as often as you want if you're one of those lucky few across the globe that have his phone number, and you can chat with him. Unlimited minutes and only pay $15 a month.
It's incredible.
Mm-hmm. That's you.
Just think about back in the day when your parents used to say, listen, you only get 500 text messages. And so remember that?
Yes.
And my mom would text me about, hey, listen, you got 200 left and you got 4 days. You're like, you write K. You're like, oh, no, that's what.
Yeah.
She's like, don't text back. But I'm like, okay. Oh, no.
You're right. Same with the minutes.
Now
it's to like get off the phone quickly.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I don't want to, cost the family.
Hey man, how did that test go? Hurry up. I got 30 seconds. Good. Okay. Same. Come on, hurry up. Boom. Dude, now you can do whatever you want.
Yeah. I remember even before that going on a friggin' payphone to get scores to the NCAA tournament. So anyway, if you'd like to be welcome to the 2024 world of an unlimited plan and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network with high-speed data. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan. Bring your phone number, the contacts, the whole deal. And to get the new offer, your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/territory. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on their first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. That's the most fitting intro to a segment ever. I'll tell you why. So that's what you hear for Hawk.
Yeah,
right?
I know where you're going with this.
Here.
Yeah, I do. It's pretty good.
Well, this is a show that, besides me, has player voice, former players telling you exactly what's going on, authentic coverage of our sport, real talk, no bullshit, baseball the way it should be covered. So we have an update on the field in Sacramento, which is suddenly going to be a big league field, even though it is a minor league park. They're working on things. And this one, according to Bill Shaken, many others have covered it as well. He said players spoke, MLB listened. Athletics to play on grass, not artificial turf. at Sutter Health Park in Sacramento. Initially, it was going to be turf, and they were going to try and be all fancy with watering it down and doing all kinds of cooling and all of that. And there was a lot of pushback, public and private. And I have some words from Ed Bondrelik's article too. He said, so they're going to play on natural grass, not the turf as previously planned. It was concerns voiced by many, right? Players and other officials, the players' union. They previously planned to install a synthetic surface in no small part because it could have been more durable with two teams calling the field home. But the temperatures from a synthetic surface might still have been intense during warm-up and batting practice. The league planned and still plans to help mitigate the heat by playing as many night games in Sacramento as possible. Who wants first on this one?
Me.
Okay.
I think about the Brooklyn Cyclones. They got turf all year long.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Whatever. If that's what they want, they want. I don't see it as a big deal.
The turf?
Yeah,
Dude,
I don't.
Brooklyn is not as crazy as Sacramento.
It gets hot. It gets hot.
It does. It
gets hot.
But Sacramento consistently can give you like a hundo plus.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. But this is just little stuff. I don't know. If they can do it, go ahead. That's great. I just there's bigger problems. They're not playing in a major league stadium. They said they're gonna make bigger dugouts.
Yeah, they're working on other renovations apparently.
It's a shit show, man. If you want the truth, this is crazy. I don't know. This whole thing, you've talked about it a lot more than I have. It's just, I feel like this is the tip of the iceberg. There's got to be a lot more stuff that has to be done. Glad they're doing it. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I don't know. To be honest with you, I'm like up in the air with this whole thing.
But also, turf just leads to more injuries. I mean, how often have you heard guys get the one day off? I'm going to get the day off in Toronto, or like back in the day.
No, you're right.
Where's this player going? Or who was it? Andre Dawson, who I've spoken to many times, the legend, who said,
turf toe.
If I played in other places, he's like, I would have had a much longer and healthier career.
You think, yeah, like Toronto had what was it? Concrete underneath. Kratzy, you would know more than me. And then Tampa, would give your feet a little bit of a hee-haw down there. I'm like, oh man, plantar fasciitis, something. No, you're right. It's
better
just
for the health.
I'm just so over this whole thing right now. That's probably what it is, man. Just hearing about it, just like, oh God.
So you want to sign with Oakland?
No, I don't. I don't want.
I guess the A's.
I don't want to do anything. I don't want anything to do with that organization, and I feel bad for the players. So
yeah. All right, Kratz, what do you got?
So I'm glad it's grass. If that's what the players wanted, you listen to the current players. Don't try to make the decision based on money. The issue is if any of those current players were or are Yankee players that were on that board, like Todd, you'll remember, they play, I think it's NYFC. I think that's the soccer team name. They're the MLS team that's owned by the Steinbrenner Group. They play there. They play there in October. They're putting like turf down, not turf. They're putting like sod down for big league games trying to be played. Now they finally moved some of the games out of there in October because I remember in 2017, guys complained about it. It was like, you can't just keep playing these games here and expect the field to be in good condition. You can't just expect a field to be played on for 7 straight days for 6 months. Like they're just going to play 6 straight months of games. Like it's not. That field is going to get eaten alive, and it is going to be hell for the grounds crew to try to keep that because you're going to get dead areas. You're going to get areas that just get worn down. You wouldn't get that with a new year of turf. First year it's not going to get worn out too bad, but I wouldn't want to play on that turf at 115, 110.
Well, it's okay.
Balls are going to be flying, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's only temporary. It's not going to happen for that long, right?
Launching.
Wait, checks notes.
3
or 4 years.
Yeah, major league balls, too. Oh, boy.
Well, so here's the other component. There's a guy, Mike Curto, who got a bunch of retweets, who said the last sentence here in this article from The Athletic is actually the most impactful. Sacramento has played as a pitcher's park in the Pacific Coast League due to poor visibility for the hitters. A new batter's eye may dramatically change that. So I'll read that last sentence from the article from Drellick. Upgrades coming at Sutter Health Park include a new home clubhouse, a new batter's eye to improve visibility, and dugout and bullpen renovations. We had Brent Rooker on for our watch party who had a freaking year with the A's. What do you have, 39 homers with Oakland? Well, he might hit 50.
He's going back
If
to
it's that hot and he's got a fresh batter's eye.
If we bring that picture back up, this is such a minor league thing to do. If we bring the picture back up of the stadium, it was a tweet that was talking about Sutter Field or Sutter Health Field. That's the picture of the batter's eye. Minor league stadiums love putting their screens in center field. Look at that batter's eye. Like, we're talking about nothing. Behind that, like, your pitchers are throwing, they're right outside of both sides of that batter's eye there. So they're probably going to expand it. And I wouldn't be even surprised if they have to elevate that screen a little bit higher, because I remember in Buffalo, the screen is way too low. Somebody throws a curveball as a catcher, that thing's coming right out of there, and you're just like, I think it's going to come down. Oh, okay, I got it. And the same thing with, like, different minor league parks, like New Hampshire Fisher Cats. They used to have the screens. They used to have the screens on the fence. Well, they sold so many advertisements that the screens got closer and closer. And so there was lights behind. So if you faced a lefty and you were a right-handed hitter, you couldn't see. If you faced a righty or if you were a left-handed hitter and you faced a righty, you couldn't see. So that batter's eye, that is teeny tiny. I mean, we're not even talking about like the Mariners issue with the batter's eye. We're talking that thing is, you're not seeing Sean Manaea coming out of that thing. They're going to need to expand that.
It's a good handball wall there for you. Wall ball, whatever you call it.
Wall ball, yeah.
Wall ball.
Yeah, wall ball. Smack the ball against the wall.
Love it. Love it.
All right, so we'll get more updates, I'm sure, on what's going on out there in Sacramento. And also just a quickie update on Tampa Bay. I read a few articles this morning. The commissioner was on, I think, a show or podcast or an interview with John Oran from Puck, and was talking about how they want to keep the Rays in the Tampa Bay area if possible for that whole situation going on with the roof flying off of the Trop. Yeah. I think that's great if they can do that, obviously, because I'm thinking about not just the team and the players, but the employees, everybody. So
they're trying to keep it at that stadium? Or
not at that stadium, no. I mean, that stadium's not going to be ready for the start of the season.
There's probably a good park out there.
Play. I mean, to me, all signs are pointing to them giving a little phone call to
University of Tampa.
University of Tampa. They might have a nice field. I don't know.
They have a high A team that plays there. Or now it's low A, but
they have a minor league team that plays in Sacramento. They'll make some moves. They run most of the minor league teams these days anyway. They run the minor leagues now, right? It's not like it's a separate commission that you got to do biz with.
Yeah.
How about the old stadium back in whenever the Rays went to Port Charlotte? They got rid of there's a stadium in St. Pete. I wonder what kind of condition that thing's in. It was their minor league stadium. I want to say like Wappau Park or something. There's something in St. Pete.
I don't know about that. I mean, I'm doubting that they're going to put money into something else. I mean, keyword money. But I think, you already have Tampa. Yes, and if there's a schedule there built, you could probably split up time. I could see them splitting time between a few facilities in that area. They could, probably do a little Port Charlotte action, a little Tampa action, maybe a little Dunedin action, maybe even a little Orlando action.
Oh, God, it's so annoying just to think
of what they're going to do.
Outside in the summer?
Here's the real question.
If they do it, just set one field. If I'm a player, I don't want to keep bouncing around the home fields. Set one field you're going to play at. Okay, you deal with it. You're not going to be happy. No, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. You're not going to be happy. But at the same time, all right, at least I get to drive to this field each and every day. I know where I can go. I know, all right, I can eat here after a game if I don't like the food. Like little things people don't think about, like where the gas station is, where do I got to, where my family can go, that kind of stuff. So leave it to one field.
My thing is, I'm curious to hear what the plan is. Like, are they going to rebuild Tropicana Field, where it's technically, I think, only going to be used for several more seasons, 3 or 4 more seasons, right? Kratz has talked about this, how much of a waste, honestly, that is. And then if not, what's the plan? Are we going to have 2 minor league facilities or less than big league facilities used for many years in our game? Yeah, 4 years each, basically. That's tough.
It's tough.
Man. Imagine if like the Knicks were playing at Toms River High School.
Be
for
awesome.
4 years.
I'd be at every game.
It'd be awesome for Tom's River, but it'd be an amateur hour, no?
100%.
Nothing against the river, but
Popcorn and dogs are good there, though. I'll tell you that.
It's just weird. You'd be like, why is
Dipping Dots in between?
Why is Jalen Brunson playing in a high school gym again? It's just, I don't know, man. It's
Might have a new favorite team.
Tough optics for the sport. Yeah.
Talk about rainouts. Florida outdoors. That's exactly why the Marlins went in. I don't even care about the heat. We're right. Talk about just absolute bake your dogs out there. We're talking, just rainouts. Rain. Oh, Florida rainstorm popping up. Delay.
Well, we're at least going to reschedule those games quickly, aren't we? We should do that.
Yeah.
We learned from that little thing. Okay, let's bring in our next guests. First time on FT. Excited to talk to former big leaguer, 3-time All-Star Jered Weaver joining us right now on Foul Territory. Jered, what's up, man?
Not too much. How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. First off, how's life? What have you been up to?
Oh, just chasing kids around. They keep me busy enough. Help out with my 11-year-old's baseball team a little bit here and there. And, we just all three of them are in sports now. So we got, the zone defense going with me and my wife. So we're all over the place. So it's fun, though, man. We're having a blast.
You got a little just for men in that goatee there? You're over 40. There ain't no way that's the color.
No, there's a couple grays coming in there. Trust me, I'm not a dye guy. There it is.
There's one.
I see it. That's good.
My wife lets me know about it too.
Hey, Jered, are you keeping up with the current action here? Like, what do you think of the Dodgers-Yankees matchup we're about to see?
I think it's going to be legendary. I think everybody's been waiting for this one for a while. I don't get to watch a lot of regular season games just because the kids won't allow me to sit on the couch for that long. But I tell them when playoff baseball comes, they got to leave me alone a little bit. So, there's nothing like the atmosphere of the playoffs and all the excitement. So, been checking it out. And this is, like I said, I think is what everybody's been asking for is Dodgers-Yankees. And a lot of future Hall of Famers on these teams and guys that everybody wants to watch. So, I'm excited about it, and I'm sure everybody else is too.
I want to hear, what do you think? I know it's on Friday, but what do you think the outcome's going to be?
Man, I'll tell you what. I'm in an area with a lot of Dodger fans. I'm out here in Thousand Oaks, California, and I grew up a Dodger fan, but it's kind of hard to root for them these days, just from grinding against them all those years. But it's I've been hearing a lot about the Dodgers, and my initial thing going into the playoffs was, obviously their pitching was a little depleted, and didn't know how that was going to work out. But you got to give these guys a lot of credit, man. That bullpen's done a hell of a job, and for them to get to this point is pretty amazing. So, it's hard to say. I think the home field advantage going into it's gonna help out a little bit, but I think it's gonna be either game 6 or 7. So it's gonna be fun to watch.
I want to ask you a little bit about pitching too, because you're a really, really good pitcher. Yeah, I'm looking up stats. I was like, man, every time I have somebody new come on here, I want to look up the stats. I really don't want to tell you I was 2 for 11 against you, so not too good at all. So you threw me that frisbee slider curve sweep. Well, probably a sweeper now if you think about it. So
yeah, I can't keep up with all these names.
Oh man, that's what I want to get into. These guys are throwing. They reached the 80 pitch mark, and it's like, all right, man, we got to find somebody new. I want to hear your thoughts about how the new pitching techniques and the analytics bringing into all this stuff. What do you think it is, and why aren't they not letting these guys go 110, 115? Why aren't they letting them pitch?
I don't know, man. I took a lot of pride in trying to get at least to the 7th inning and get through the 7th inning, and I was pretty fortunate to always have a amazing bullpen. So anytime I can get as deep in the game as I can, we were going to have a pretty good chance of winning. So going 4 or 5 innings and these guys coming off the mound, got proud of themselves for that. I came up with a lot of old school guys, and I would have been called a pussy for that. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here, but my mentality going into games was trying to get as deep in the game as you can. And look, if the bullpen been grinding for the last couple of days, and I've said this before, my favorite thing to do was hey, you guys got the day off today. I'm going to grind out there and trying to get as deep in the game as I can. So, it's a different game these days, and it is what it is. But I wouldn't be too proud of myself for only getting through 4 or 5 innings. That's for sure.
But how bad did your arm hurt at the end? Because basically they're saying, oh, we're trying to save arm injuries, which I feel like are through the roof, and yet they're still not throwing a lot. But at the end of your career, how bad did your arm hurt? How bad were you like, I gave everything? Because that's the answer that the pitchers have for us is, well, you have to go as hard as you can on every single pitch, or else you can't get these big leaguers out.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty fortunate to not have too much arm trouble, to tell you the truth. Would battle through shoulder tendonitis every now and again. And you just take a couple anti-inflammatories and you're good to go to get out there. And I was very fortunate. Now my left hip from stepping at third base was another issue, and would always have some back issues. But pretty fortunate not to have too many arm troubles. And I just had a chance to go out to Instructs with the Angels, go check that out, and it's just like the conditioning isn't the same as it was before. In between starts, these guys, we would go. I don't know if you guys, other starting pitchers, would do this, but we just run the concourse as long as we could in between starts, and definitely after our start to flush it all out. And I would do 6 or 7 laps out there, and just found out that these guys are going 1 lap and then walking the next one. I'm like, man, well, it makes a lot of sense why these guys can only go 4 or 5 innings anymore. But it's just crazy how much different it is, and I'm still trying to get a grasp on all this stuff that that's gone new in the game. And I went away from the game for a little bit, just wanted to catch up on family time, and but this is all I know. I love baseball, and like I said, thanks for having me on here. I don't get a chance to talk ball too often, so it's just weird how it's changed, and it's working out to get to guys where they're at, I guess. But like I said, there's more injuries now than there was ever when I remember when I was playing. That's for sure.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, and we appreciate the time, dude. It's great to have you on. And it's cool, actually, to hear the perspective from someone who didn't play that long ago and was super durable. I'm looking, too, at the innings pitched that you racked up. So when you're at Instructs, for example, obviously guys know who you are. They're coming up to you. Did they ask you anything along the lines of, hey, how can I be like you? How can I pitch as much as you did? Also, in addition, what are you seeing? Like you said, they're not running as much. What are they doing instead? And do you say to some of them, like, hey, you should probably run more? I mean, I know Scherzer's gotten hurt a bit the last couple of years, but he was super durable for a while too. I always would see him when I'm at the park early, just running all around on his off days. I would say way more than a lot of the other starters that I knew when I was at the park.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird. I think that, I don't know if teams are pushing the conditioning as much as they were before, or what's going on. I know that the Angels are trying to get back into that, where they're pushing the conditioning in between starts with these guys, and for the bullpen guys. And to touch on your what you said earlier about what these kids come up and ask, and you talk about what you did in between starts, and they just couldn't believe what you did. And I was like, man, the work you put, the hard part is the stuff in between starts, and then once you get out to the mound, that's the fun part. It shouldn't be hard and grinding when you're out there. That's why you do the work in between, so you're ready to go every 5 days. So I had a chance to be like a little bit bullpen coach out there for one of the games, and these guys are throwing around these weighted balls against the wall like it's going out of style. I couldn't believe that. I've never touched a weighted ball in my life. So like these guys have to throw these weighted balls around before they even get off the mound to start warming up. And it was just a totally different thing for me, that's for sure. But, they're talking about the angles of the pitches and the spin rate and all this stuff. And I was like, man, I just used my eyes to see if it was a good pitch or not. So, it's definitely a different era of pitching. I call it more throwing now than pitching, but it's just like I said, trying to get a grasp on all this stuff again is a lot of it goes over my head. That's for sure.
Well, okay, then let me take you to the fact that you're watching playoffs, and obviously you were part of the Angels for basically your entire career. You, I'm sure, caught plenty of Shohei Ohtani when he was with the Angels. So is it bittersweet for you to see him move from the Angels to the Dodgers and, of course, have the success? Some of the talk has been about how we had the best player in our sport and a unicorn in our sport who's doing some really cool shit, right? Like he's pitching and he's hitting. Obviously not this year. He's just been a monster at the plate and on the bases. But we didn't have him in the postseason at all. So how much do you think that hurts baseball when we didn't have basically a living legend playing in the October stage up until this point?
Yeah, man, that guy is something special. That's for sure. I just hope he can get back on the mound again, so we can see him do both things. Just what he's doing is something we've never seen before, obviously, and it was a shame that the Angels couldn't get him into the playoffs. Him and Trout together would have been fun to watch. Now to see where he's at, everybody's talking about, struggling the first couple games or whatever. And it's like, dude, let the guy get used to the playoffs a little bit and then see what happens. So I think we can see that he's getting comfortable and just putting on a display that everybody wanted to see. And it's fun to watch.
Now you got to spend 99% of your career in LA with the Angels. What do you see changing, or what do you see going wrong from before? There's been a lot of articles coming out about they still have that tent for the weight room in spring training. They still, they haven't added to their player development like other teams have. Do you see anything changing there? Do you see that the organization could be far behind, even though you only went to the Padres, so that was really the only other place that you got to see?
Yeah, I mean, when I was there, we had one of the best minor league developments in baseball, and I think they've kind of gotten away from that with trades and things like that. When we were winning, it was all pitching and defense, and you give us 2 or 3 runs, and the starters and relievers were going to take care of the rest. And then when I was there, they kind of transitioned to more of an offensive team, and bringing in Pujols, Hamilton, Vernon Wells, Torrey Hunter. Those guys are great on defense as well. Don't get me wrong, but we had more of an offensive powerhouse, and and it's kind of sad that people are kind of blaming Artie for this, and he put a bunch of money out there. It wasn't cheap to get Albert. It wasn't cheap to get Josh, myself, CJ Wilson, Vernon Wells, bringing him over. I mean, it was at Torrey Hunter. He spent some money and it didn't work out. And I think he's just kind of, trying to go back into the kind of analytics thing to try to get through this. And, I'm good buddies with Trout, and I would love to see him in the postseason. We only had that one time, I think, 2014, and we ended up getting swept by the Royals, so that's another guy. We talk about Shohei. Would love to see Trout in the playoffs, man, just to show off his talents as well.
Yeah, you did get swept by the Royals. I didn't play, but I was there. I was there watching. So you said I was on the bench. I got to give high fives. So you said Artie shouldn't be getting so much of the blame. Who do you think is to blame? Is it the fact that they went away from defense? Because nobody pays for defense. People are just like, oh, cool, like he has defense, or nobody. Who is to blame, or is it just an overall overarching theme that just has slowly led to the deterioration of the org?
Yeah, that's hard for me to say. I'm not a part of the front office too much. Like I said, I just got to sit in my first staff meeting and instructs, and got to see the other side of stuff. So that was kind of cool to see. But the only thing that I said, in the meeting was, there's a lot of guys that you don't really know on that team, and if you get everybody going in the wrong direction, who do these guys have to go to talk to get them through that? Like I said, I was fortunate enough to have Adam Kennedy, Darren Erstand, Tim Salmon, Garrett Anderson. I mean, all these guys that go to learn from. And who knows if I don't have those guys, who knows if I get through 12 seasons of baseball with those guys as well. So, it's like these guys get caught in these funks. Well, who do you go to talk to? You have Trout and hey, I had Shohei and yeah, that's great. But, those guys can't touch on everybody, so it's just something like that maybe has that's caught up to him a little bit. But like I said, I don't know, man. It's the front office I found out is a totally different gig. So I think they're on the right track. I think Perry had the right mentality. They're trying to get back into the old school mindset and tie it in with a little bit of the analytics and things like that. So I think they got it going in the right direction. It's just going to take a couple more years to get through that.
Talking about one of the best players to ever play the game, Mike Trout. I mean, you know him, I know him, great guy here and there. Injuries, man, these injuries absolutely hurting him so bad. When talking to him, you could hear it in his voice how bad it is. I mean, I feel like, if he's healthy, he probably would have been, the Shohei Ohtani of the world on the offensive side for sure. There's no doubt about it. How do you see him, working out of this and getting better? I know he's got a lot more left in the tank with the Angels. Where do you see him, ending his career pretty much, and how much longer you think he's got?
Nobody wants it more than Mike, man. And the internet's a hell of a thing these days. Just coming up with stuff and blurting stuff out of their mouth. But nobody wants it more than Mike. He's one of the most competitive people I've ever been around. It doesn't matter if you're playing ping pong, cards, or pool. He wants to win, and it kills him not to be in there and be able to help out with his guys. So. He's still got a lot of years left, man. He might have to take a little time off his legs, maybe in center field, move to right or something like that. But he's good to go. I've been talking with him a little bit in the off season. His knee's feeling great, and he's itching to get back out there. So he's as loyal as they come. Obviously, with sticking with the Angels, and I think he said it best. He's like, hey, they signed me here, and I want to win here. So and that's the mentality I took when I took a little hometown discount to stay there. Is like I wanted to bring a championship to that organization and that city. So, he feels the same way. Obviously came up short with that regard, but nobody wants to be out there more than Mike. And I think the sky's the limit. He's still got a lot of gas left in the tank, man. I'm looking forward to him getting back out there next year.
Learning from your career, you're talking to Trout. Should he ask for a trade because of the fact that you didn't get the ring that you were searching for? You wanted it as an Angel. You wanted it bad, and you could see it on the mound when you took the ball on the mound every 5 days. Trout wants it the same. Like, he's had some injuries. Should you, as a player, should Trout ask for a trade, because it seems like now they're maybe 3 or 4 years away? Even though some of the guys in the big leagues now are young, they still have to develop in the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Trout would ever ask for a trade, go in and ask for a trade. That's not the kind of person he is, that's for sure. But, I think that there's going to come a point in time where, he does want to go somewhere else and maybe go win somewhere else. But for right now, I know he's totally fine with staying with Anaheim and wanting to grind with them. And, I think that, like I said, the Angels have a chance here in the offseason to do some stuff and put some guys around them. And I told everybody if they knew they weren't going to sign Shohei back, they might have wanted to think about trading him to get some stuff back for him. But
True.
it's that didn't happen. And like I said, Trout's going to be just fine, and he's going to do what's best for him and his family. And like I said, I'm just looking forward to him getting back out there healthy again.
I know you mentioned being loyal to the franchise and how you stuck around there. So now that we're years past it, were you close at all to ever departing? I mean, I know you ended the career, what was it, the Padres for, a few appearances at the end there, but you were basically an Angel for life. How close were you, I think, during the one time when you signed, what was it, an extension? Or did you hit free agency, or was it before you got there?
I signed the year before free agency. Okay. So, I came up a year short of free agency. But, look, I've said it before. I have no regrets on what I did. I'm doing just fine right now. My loyalty was to Anaheim and to my family. I mean, my mom and dad were at every start. My brother got to come watch me all the time when after he got done. My friends and family were always in the stands, and I love that, and I love that I had that opportunity to stay and have all those guys around me to come help or come watch and support me. You can't put a price tag on that. And like I said, my mom and dad never missed a game. They were always there right behind home plate. My dad screaming at me for giving up 0-2 hits all the time, and I would not trade that for the world. So totally fine with how everything transitioned, and was an honor to be there for 12 seasons.
So what would your advice be to someone like Juan Soto who hits free agency? There's going to be other teams interested. His price tag's going to be high, but we don't know exactly what's going on in his head. But let's say he wins a World Series this year with the Yanks and he's just loving life, and the Mets come across and have a little bit of a better offer. What would your advice be from someone who definitely got your quality of life, your happiness, your one franchise, and you enjoyed it? What would your advice be to him? Because obviously, I think some players of when they're in that position, Jered, they feel like they have to also like set the market. Like you're a generational player. If there's a team coming along and they're going to offer you 600, and the prior team's only offering 550 million, it's not going to make a difference in your life, but it does make a difference in the game. Right. Only 550. What would you tell him if you're sitting with him and having dinner and he's like, hey, you decided to stick with one team. What should I do?
Oh, man, that's tough for me to say. He's a different talent than I ever was, that's for sure. He's put himself in a position to do whatever he wants to do, and whatever he does decide to do, he's going to make a lot of money for doing it. And he's a fun player to watch. His competitiveness and his fire is so fun to watch, and I respect the hell out of it. And he's put himself in a position to make his own destiny and do what he wants to do. And if it's in stay with the Yankees, then my advice would be do what's best for Juan Soto. And like I said, he's not going to make a wrong choice. He's in a different tax bracket than I was ever able to get into. So I think Juan's going to be just fine with wherever he goes. And I look forward to watching him for years to come.
All right, so I got a good one here, and you can be quick with this too. So I want to know how you would pitch these guys. Leading off, Juan Soto.
Oh God, can I walk him right out of the gate or no?
You're putting up 4. All right,
fine. We can't walk everyone.
That's fine. Now coming up next, Aaron Judge. How do you throw against a guy like that?
Oh man, so I loved it. Like, I didn't change my approach with right-handed hitters. We talked about you being a right-handed bat. I was down and away sliders. I'd show in because I knew I couldn't throw it in for strikes and just hope they got themselves out. It's like these guys talk about these hot spots and stuff, and it's like, well, if I know this spot isn't where I go to, why would I try to make that pitch? I'll just go back down and away and take my chances with what got me up to the big leagues. So the hard end for show, down and away sliders.
All right, so you got those two guys out. Judge just hit a double play. Batting third, Shohei Ohtani, bottom 9. What's going on? You're up 1 run. Can't walk him, though.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Garrett Cole style.
Yeah.
I don't know. Does he got a hole somewhere up in the top left part of the? He doesn't have any
up
holes.
And away, right?
No, he has holes. He has holes. You can back cut him. You could back cut him. You could get ahead with an early breaking ball away, but you can't double up on it. And then you'd have to back him off. He'd make that weird noise, and then you'd have to throw that little poo thing you used to throw down and away to lefties to get guys to roll over. But you got to throw a ball.
Any chance I can get to that changeup, I'm throwing it. You know what I mean? And what was it? Yu Darvish, I think, was just throwing them all like little curveball little deals, and he had a tough time with it. So maybe I just stick with the coming through the chimney on him.
You need a 12-6er. You need to make sure it's your 12-6er. When yours got a little this way, that wouldn't be good for Shohei. He'll open up and take that way back.
Mm-hmm.
He'll take
I'll
back.
throw the backdoor one that backs up, so you think it's going in the zone, but it just stays out there. I had a lot of success with that one.
I call that the Bronson Arroyo right there. That dude knew how to back up a curveball with the best of them. I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
That's a good name. Well, Jered, this was awesome, man. Great to catch up with you, and glad to hear everything's going well. Enjoy this little heavyweight battle we've got coming up on Friday, and welcome back anytime. But appreciate it, man.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me anytime, man. I really appreciate it.
Wait, Weaver. Yes, now we talked about Todd. We talked about how Todd did against you in the big leagues. I never got to face you in the big leagues, but we got to go back to the Peoria Swarros in the Arizona Fall League. When you were in the Arizona Fall League, I'm not even sure what team you played for.
Scorpions.
You were on the Scorpions.
Did you get me?
Double off the wall. You didn't look like you really wanted to be there. And I looked at your stats. I'm like, you didn't even play below double A. So I'm like, why were you even in the fall league? But that was like a whole 2005 crew there that playing against each other.
Rancho Cucamonga, high A, baby. That's where I started out at. Loved it there.
Oh, that's
Buffalo
where they started
Wild
you
Wings
at?
after games. You watch out.
Don't worry, the A's will be playing there too.
That was a hitter's league. But hey, you know what? The A's will be playing there soon too. That's
right.
where their home games are gonna.
I feel so bad for what's going on there, man. Good Lord.
Dude, brutal.
Gotta play in Sacramento. That would be brutal. Hey, you're in the big leagues, Weave, but you gotta play in Sacramento. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's that whole situation's sad, man. I really enjoy, the amenities may not have been great at the Coliseum, but that fan base and they were passionate, man. They loved it, and I feel bad for those fans out there for what's going on, man. Hopefully they can get that figured out.
You don't feel bad for the players?
He does.
No doubt about that. No doubt.
Yeah. But no, he's right. I mean, that fan base, you're right. I mean, you saw them plenty. Like, that's a special fan base out there that brought just a different level of passion. And I don't know. It just sucks because a lot of them, they're not following them. It's just how it is. So it sucks to lose a fan base. You want to be growing the game, not, smashing fans down.
True.
Like whack-a-mole. So I'm with you. We've covered it a lot here, man. It's tough. It's been tough to look at, no matter what you think of the ballpark and all that.
It was fun interacting with the drummers and stuff out there during BP, and those guys that would come in early and get on you, man. It was I really enjoyed it there, and I think Dallas Braden's throwing a lot of stuff out there on Twitter about it as well. So, like I said, hopefully they can get that figured out, man.
Yeah, I agree. I hope they get one back eventually. Well, Jered, this was awesome, man. Appreciate the time, dude. Great to catch up.
Appreciate it, guys. Talk soon.
Thank you. Jered Weaver with us, former Angels great, 3-time All-Star on FT. And we're going to preview the World Series again with a writer coming up, Jorge Castillo, in just a moment. But let's give a little love to Viore. Erik Kratz is our model for the day. And, he was just doing a little dig me on his Arizona Fall League double. So you might as well just keep it rolling here right now with the shirt that you're wearing today. I've actually got the pants. I don't know if I should reveal them on the show, but
you won't.
I've got the pants that I wear.
Give a little stretch.
I don't really know how to. I could actually stand here. You could see maybe just a little bit.
He's got to have the strings out like he's on the beach and shit. I love it.
Strings out. This is my go-to, though. See, here's the strings right there.
Oh, what do we got going on? I can't look.
Put the shirt down.
What?
Todd, what is going on in the
law? Todd told me to do it. This is FT, airport, home, everywhere, right?
The
yim in the winter. The yim in the winter. Yeah,
I got the pants. The pants are incredible.
They are incredible.
No, like the ones that look like really good pants. If those are good, but those are more comfortable. Yeah. Mine are like the skinny straight legs ones. You could rock anywhere.
Yeah.
To Kratz's house when you're picking the weeds and all that good stuff.
Yeah, Top Father does the squats and then he tries to show off the tight pants.
You ain't got weeds yet. Yeah. No, very good company.
Very
for sure.
Nice. Versatile, comfortable, the whole deal. So, all right, let's get to the website here. Thank you, Viore.com/foul, 20% off your first purchase. Get yourself some of the most comfortable and versatile clothing on it at VUORI.com/FOUL, 20% off your first purchase, and you can get free shipping on any U.S. orders over $75 and free returns. Discover the versatility of Viore clothing at Viore.com/foul.
Very nice.
All right. ESPN New York baseball reporter Jorge Castillo joining us for what I call the Jorge Castillo Bowl, because he used to cover the Dodgers. Now he's covering New York ball, but we've got the Yankees and the Dodgers. So this really is your Super Bowl, Jorge. Great to have you on. And can you pick a better matchup for you to have just all of the tidbits and info that you've gathered up over these years?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. You're the third person who's mentioned the Jorge Castillo Super Bowl or World Series or something, but I'm probably the 2000th most important person involved in 7 games. So, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it, man. It's what everybody wanted, right? Yankees, Dodgers. I just happen to want it probably a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that. So, all right. So, well, let's start with the team that you're covering more nowadays, right? In the New York Yankees. Are you surprised to see them here based off seeing them throughout the season? Because I mean, you go through the whole year with a team, and I think actually sometimes when I talk to beat writers and they tell me about the pros and cons, they're almost like too deep into it. When you take a step out, you're like, yeah, every team has flaws and pimples and all that, and the Yankees looked like they were in pretty good shape for most of the year.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I think when you're around a team so much, you get caught up in the flaws of the team. And it's funny because, in this role that I have, I kind of bounce around a little bit. And, you hear like the Orioles beat crew come in and they're saying how their team is terrible. And you hear the Dodgers come in, whatever. Any team comes in, you hear how, the warts. Every team has their warts. I always thought with the Yankees, they had their warts like everybody else. There have been times where they've looked sloppy, on the base pass defensively, but they have talent. And talent in October, man, that matters a lot. Juan Soto in October, Giancarlo Stanton in October. You got Garrett Cole, the best starting pitcher left in the world in the postseason, obviously, and they just have great talent. And I think talent wins out a lot of times. We've seen a lot over the years. Wild card teams kind of sneak up and go to the World Series, but I always thought all along that the Yankees could get there if they got into the dance, and it really just avoided that 3-game series. I think the wild card series kind of makes things a little crazy, but they always had the talent.
My question. Go ahead, Kratzy. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to go on what you said. Like they always had the talent, but watching them from afar before, you were watching the Dodgers a lot. So when you see a team, you see their warts. So that's why all those teams come in, and you hear from the Orioles beat writers and all those guys. What did you think of the Yankees before you got to follow them for an entire season?
I thought, especially when Juan Soto came over, last year from a distance, right? They went to Los Angeles. I was there, and Judge gets hurt in LA, which is another sort of subplot to this World Series, one of like 30. He gets hurt out there, and then they were really good up to that point, and then Judge gets hurt, and you have to remember when Judge has been on the field the last 3 years, he's been the best hitter in the world, right? He wasn't on the field for a lot of last year, and the team just fell apart after that. I always think the Yankees should be in it, and they have been in it except for last year. Right? 2 years ago, they go to the ALCS as well. So they're always in it, and I think they should always be in it. And I think once they traded for Juan Soto, that team, it's sort of the perfect complement for Aaron Judge. You envision a world in which those two guys are going, it's like back to back, just making pitchers, making their jobs difficult, and it went exactly like the Yankees envisioned it. I thought Juan Soto was obviously a huge acquisition, a huge risk they took, and just given the money that they have, the star power that they have, I always thought they were a team to contend with. And I just think coming from the Dodgers side of things, that doesn't always mean a lot, in October in these tournaments. The Dodgers lost to the Padres, they lost to the Diamondbacks, they lost to the Nationals in 19. Obviously in 6 games to the Braves in 21. Starting pitching matters, and I think that's something that that's helped the Yankees a lot here is they're healthy when it comes to starting pitching. Garrett Cole, Rodon, Schmidt, Hill. They might get Cortez back here for the World Series out of the bullpen. That to me has been a big advantage for them. But hey, it's the Yankees, man. They should be here. It's been 15 years. It's crazy. It's been 15 years, but they should be here. And this year's team, deserves it.
You kind of led into my next question about Nestor Cortez. You brought up a bullpen piece. So I don't know. I like him in the bullpen too as well. I don't care where he goes if you want to do that. I think he can come in and start if needed, and I think he can do bullpen too as well. So who comes off if he's that guy in the bullpen now?
I think, Aaron Boone was asked this question earlier. There's a chance to go to 13 pitchers. They were at 12 for the ALCS. If that's the case, then a position player comes off. Probably, likely. If not, then if they go with 12, then you got to think they added Mark Leiter Jr. To the roster to replace Ian Hamilton. You got Marcus Stroman on there right now. Well, he was on the ALCS roster, and he didn't pitch. Tim Mays is another lefty, but I think you need lefties with Ohtani and Freeman. I know Freeman's banged up. You still got Ohtani, Freeman, Muncy to deal with. The more lefties, the better. If they go position player off, you got to think it's Dominguez or Grisham. They both didn't play much there in the ALCS. But I see Cortez as a bullpen piece just because his live BPs have been around 20 pitches, 25 pitches. Today I was counting them actually. It's probably 20, 25 pitches. So he's a guy that's coming out of the bullpen, and I think it's a great weapon to have. Even if he can give you like an inning plus, he's a guy who's not scared. He's proven he can do that out of the bullpen. and it's just another quality arm to have against those lefties.
I know with the Dodgers, there are really tough righties. There are really tough left-handed hitters, of course. So I'll keep going on what you were talking about with Ohtani and Freeman specifically. So I'm looking at Rodon, Mesa, like you mentioned, Hill for sure, Nestor, and then even Tommy Kahnle with the changeup that he brings to the table. Do you feel like the Yankees are as well suited as any team in baseball to be able to handle Ohtani and Freeman when they need big outs from lefties or guys that can really handle left-handed hitters?
Yeah, I think they're as good as any team can be. Otani's Otani, and Freddie's a Hall of Famer, even though with a bum ankle, man, he's still hitting out there when he's on the field. And Muncy had that record of getting on base, I think it was, right, postseason, at bats, plate appearances. Yeah, I think between those guys, you add Nestor to the mix, and they're about as well equipped as you can be. Someone reached out to me yesterday asking me about Nestor possibly starting, and then it got me thinking, like, I don't know any. This is speculation right here. But what if you have Nestor open, a guy who's used to starting? Maybe take down Otani, Mookie, Freeman. And if Muncy's hitting fourth, or if it's Teo, then maybe you go to a righty. I just thought that this is speculation, nothing reporting here. But I just thought about that, something like that, to take down Otani and Freeman in their first plate appearances. But Nestor just gives them another weapon. You got Tim Hill pitching all 5 ALCS games. Mazes look pretty good. And you mentioned Kahnle. I think he's thrown like 45 straight changeups. I mean, the guy's doing his thing with that. So he's another guy who can get lefties out.
Let's say Ohtani and Judge were in the same league this year. Who wins the MVP this year? Because the year that Judgy had when he won it over Ohtani, when they were in the same league, was historic. Who wins the MVP this year if they're both in the same league?
I take Judge because Judge is playing center field. And I know Judge is, the numbers say he's below average and whatever, but he still has to be out there running around and doing it. The wear and tear on the body, I think that matters. I know Ohtani did the 50-50. Amazing year. I'm not trying to take away anything from Ohtani, but I think playing in the field matters. Is the reason why Ohtani is going to be the first DH to win it. I think that's just the grind, the mental sort of fortitude you need to do both sides every single day. And it's not like Judge was like taking days off either. The guy was out there. He took his DH days once in a while, but he's a dude. He's like 6'7", 280, 300, whatever he is, playing center field. I think that matters. And as great as a year of Ohtani, he had, I'd probably even take Bobby Witt over Ohtani if it came down to it. I just think playing shortstop and all that matters too.
That's a good call. Yeah, we forget Bobby Witt's season. Many other years would be an MVP season if you don't have Judge there. There's no doubt. And also what he did at the shortstop position, just elite defense over there too. I want to ask you about Garrett Cole. So he's starting game 1. We know that. For the Yanks. He hasn't looked great. I mean, he had the one great start, in 2 not very Garrett Cole-ish starts in the postseason, not necessarily seeing the swing and miss from him. So I'm curious what you're observing, what he's saying. I mean, I think many have mentioned how he's coming off the elbow issue and he's probably not, a complete version of himself right now. So I'm curious what we should expect for this World Series. And after that, if you want to also include what you think is going to happen in the offseason, because he does have that little option thing hanging around where the Yankees would have to pick it up, or he could be a free agent. But I don't know if he would based on what's going on with the elbow this year.
Yeah, I think we need to sort of remember how maybe like 6, 7, 8 months ago, whenever it was in March, whenever March was, how we probably didn't think that Garrett Cole would ever be in this position of, pitching in game 1 of the World Series. Once you hear elbow and shut down in mid-March, and you think the worst, right? We've seen it so many times with pitchers. This is a guy who had never gotten, who hadn't been hurt for a long time. So the fact he's here pitching game 1, I think, as, baseball fans here, people that cover the game, I think it's awesome that we get to see Garrett Cole in a game 1 of the World Series. As for, what he's done, Garrett Cole, he had his really good outings. He got roughed up a bit during the regular season against the Red Sox, or the Devers game. We intentionally walked Devers, and a couple times against the Mets, but looked really good otherwise. He had that really good outing to clinch the ALDS. I think he's just Garrett Cole. I think it's, for the most part, it's the Garrett Cole we've seen. He busted out a turbo sinker the other day. It was like 97, 98 miles an hour. That's a pitch I wonder if we're going to see a lot of on Friday. I think it's the Garrett Cole. Sometimes, we're seeing a lot of starting pitchers, good ones, great ones, have a tough time in the postseason. He had his one great start. I know he went like 4 and something the other in his other ones. But I think Erik Cole he's the best starting pitcher in this World Series, in my opinion. And I think he gives the Yankees a big advantage. I think their starting rotation in general gives the Yankees a big advantage in this World Series. So if he can give them 5, 6, 7, really good innings, great innings, that puts him in a good spot. And I think he could. I know we talk about the injury, but he's looked really good for a lot of the season. As for the offseason, I can't imagine Gerrit Cole's not going to be a Yankee for a long time. That's my stance on that. He loves being a Yankee. The Yankees love him. I know he had the injury thing. I know he's getting a little older, but he looked really good when he got really going during the regular season after starting the year in June and ramping up. He's still, to me, one of the best pitchers in baseball, and I think next year, once this injury thing gets behind him and in the full offseason, he'll be back to being Gerrit Cole.
Is there a fear, though? Is there a fear because Gerrit Cole doesn't have success when teams don't go out of the zone? And the Dodgers didn't go out of the zone against the Mets, and that's why they did what they did. Do you see, because you've seen every one of Gerrit Cole's starts this year, do you see him being able to compete in the zone, or is he going to need to nibble, and that's where his issue is going to be because he doesn't have that elite get on it, and it's 98 and somebody fouls it off, or they hit a fly ball where before last year in his Cy Young year, that was a swing and a miss.
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Dodgers are pretty much, in a lot of ways, the offense is what the Yankees do, right? They grind you away. There's a reason why these two teams are in the World Series. They make pitchers' lives a lot more difficult, right? They make you go to get to their bullpen. And you're right, maybe Gerrit Cole is more of he can't put you away, and he's had those issues. He had a few starts this year where the swing and miss just wasn't there, the strikeout numbers weren't there. I can think of a couple times that happened. But I'm going back to this turbo sinker that he busted out the other day. I wonder how he could use that to his advantage. 98 runs like crazy. Maybe he busts that out a little bit and for some swing and miss. He's a guy who, as you guys know, he's very cerebral. He's very, he has a bunch of pitches to choose from. He's probably been game plan. He'll be game planning this down to the inch, down to every pitch. But the Dodgers are the Dodgers. They have the best line, the deepest lineup outside the Yankees. Maybe these are the two deepest lineups in baseball. So it's going to be a challenge for any pitcher out there. I put my money on Gerrit Cole giving you 5, 6 good innings, and that in this postseason is a huge deal. I don't know. We've all been watching this postseason. If you go, you get clapped out, you're applauded off the field if you go 4. So I think going 5 or 6, it would be huge, and I think Cole can do that. Maybe he's not going to be wipe out stuff or a bunch of swing and misses, but he's the kind of pitcher I think who can navigate this lineup or do it better than most.
Well, Jorge, thanks for joining us, man. Everyone check out Jorge's coverage, of course, all over ESPN's website, ESPN New York Baseball Reporter. You can follow him at Jorge Castillo to see when he posts everything and what he's got going on. But busy week for you coming up. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you, man.
Hey, no problem, guys. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Enjoy the series. Jorge Castillo with us on FT. So do we want to get right into what we're thinking with the rotations here? So we're going to do kind of like tail of the tape on a daily basis. So let's match up World Series starting pitchers. Gerrit Cole, Carlos Rodon, Clark Schmidt, Luis Gil. Dodgers with Flaherty, Yamamoto, Walker Buehler. Who's bullpen? No, I'm kidding. Who is bullpen?
Bullpen Magooch.
So who's got the advantage here? What are we thinking? Who wants to go?
I'd even put the Yankees bullpen up there too.
But they're not going to have a bullpen game.
They won't start.
Oh, you're talking about ball?
Well,
yeah,
that's why we put bullpen there because we're like Dodgers.
Confused me. Erik texted me. He was wondering about that. That's why I said it out loud.
Well, we're trying to teach Erik about the game. That's why we do this show every day. We teach Erik Kratz about the game of baseball.
Yeah, no, I like the Yankees here on paper. Flaherty got roughed up. I mean, he had that one good start, and I was like, all right, well, he did great, but then he got roughed up against the Mets. I love Gerrit Cole. I like Rodon a lot. Yeah, bullpen games aren't. I don't think they have a chance winning those games, even though they do have a good bullpen. I mean, they started Michael Kopech the other day, which was incredible. But he was a starter before. So again, you could have won a little longer with him. But yeah, I see Clark Schmidt having a good one and Luis Heel doing really good too as well over there. Yamamoto's really good, but how long is he going to go? And Walker Buehler, that sweeper plays, but Yankees do like hitting those pitches. So we'll see what happens.
I think there's 3 main themes for every team: base running, hitting, rotation. We hit the rotation right now. This might be one of the weaker components of both of these teams combined. So I don't, when you compare the base running of these teams, stolen bases from Shohei Ohtani, Yankees base running, and you compare the lineups, we'll do that another day. But rotation-wise, there would be a lot better. Look, Jorge just said he thinks that Gerrit Cole is the best starting pitcher in the World Series. And I think Gerrit Cole would tell you right now that in the shape that he's in the way that he's throwing, if he's the best starting pitcher in the World Series right now, stuff-wise, he's like, some guys are a little down. So I don't think it's a drastic difference. I just think the Yankees have more quality pitching, so it makes it a more drastic difference. Yamamoto could be great. Flaherty could be great. Walker Buehler, he's gonna have to do something other than what he did against the Mets. He was throwing that slider out of the zone. The Mets were chasing it. There was a lot of chase there that I don't see from the Yankees in the lineup. And then, I mean, it's to me, it's not even close because you don't even have a fourth starter. Most teams don't have a fourth starter. Their bullpen has done awesome, but I think this is a Yankees advantage by far. The issue is starting pitching advantages can get nullified if your manager can't keep himself locked to the dugout until the 5th or 6th inning. Like, you can't just be like, we have a starting pitching advantage. Take him out quick, 3rd time through, because if that's the case, the Dodgers are going to ramp up everybody. They're going to rack up everybody's pitch count that goes out there, from Cole to Heel to Clark Schmidt to Nestor if he opens. It doesn't matter. Rodon's pitch count is going to go up, and that's going to be the biggest issue. Is Aaron Boone needs to sit his butt in the dugout and let this starting pitching advantage give the Yankees the advantage that they have right now on paper.
I like that. We're going to get to bullpens tomorrow, but sneak peek, I've got the Dodgers bullpen with the edge. So just like Kratz said, you got to let the starter eat a little bit. And you also have to realize that the chances of these being low-scoring games are quite low. Like, I'll check the over-under. We'll do the BetMGM look in a little bit at
8
locks coming up. But what is it, 8?
It's already 8. Already locked it in because it's been going up. I locked it in at 7.5. It just keeps going up, boys.
So my point is, if the Dodgers get a run or two in the first, that doesn't mean you start freaking out and get even second time around, right? Like, you got to be careful, because once you open up the depth of the Yankees bullpen, you're going to start to swing an advantage to the Dodgers if you're pulling the plug a little bit too soon. Sure, you got to go off feel. If you see a guy really doesn't have it, he doesn't have, like, let's say Luis Heel, young guy, he's got good stuff, but let's say he just goes out there and he doesn't have feel for his slider or his changeup, and you're just like, yo, I'm not seeing it for multiple innings. Okay, I get it. But you need to be patient with guys. Cole's a good example. Cole give up a home run or two. That might happen, but you got to assume you're going to win some of these games 5-4, maybe 7-6. So I think they do have to be careful, and you have to also anticipate it could be a 6 or a 7 game series. So I've got the advantage for sure to the Yankees on the starting pitching side. And it's not just the effectiveness of the starters. I think it's the innings that they can eat compared to the Dodgers guys. For me, the X factor, Kratz, in the rotation, the X factor, the guy I'm curious about is Buehler. What version of him? And like you said, are they going to bite at his secondary stuff? So he, in that last start against the Mets, the game 3 NLCS, coming off like no swing and miss in the previous outing. Best drop he's ever had on his knuckle curve. Most sweep he's ever had on his sweeper. The most fade he's ever had on the sinker horizontal. So you were seeing even the spin rate, not like it was when we had sticky stuff and all of that, but everything was up for him. So I'm like, are we getting that version of Walker Buehler? And also, I will say numbers were up across the board. We can get into that at some point, actually. Cyrus has been covering a lot on Twitter. It's talking about environmental factors and everybody's, stuff being better. And I'm like, I also could see that some guys might be using a little bit of something, or maybe a lot of guys are. I don't know. Yeah, we could get into that. We could do a little conspiracy theory topic tomorrow. We've got enough built up on that from people that are much smarter than me online that have talked about it. But anyway, for me, I do think, yes, Cole, you got to trust, let him do his thing. I think on the Yankees side, I could see Heel being a huge factor. I mean, I think maybe that first inning last time around when we saw him was a little wobbly. Yeah, no shit. He hadn't pitched in weeks. You got to give a guy a break here, So, yes, pound the strike zone because his stuff's good enough to play in there. So, anyway, yeah, I like the Yanks rotation here over the Dodgers in the little tape. We'll talk more about this series, obviously, for the next few days, and we have team shows that cover both sides, pinstripe territory. Derek running his show tonight, 7 o'clock Eastern. He'll be live with Gary Phillips, who covers the Yanks for the New York Daily News. So if you want a little more Yankees action, Derek's got you covered tonight. All right, let's actually go back to Hot Corner.
Still sizzling.
Yeah, still sizzling. Well, you got one more topic because AJ Preller spoke. So he was on 97.3 The Fan in San Diego. I'd love to talk to Preller. Padres, hook us up. Come on, you can do it. He says that Tatis and Merrill would probably.
Right
oh, dang.
You know him, right?
Yeah, I'll text him.
Yeah, let's chat.
Continue.
Let's chat.
Go ahead.
Fernando Tatis Jr. and Jackson Merrill would probably love to move back to shortstop, but they've done really well in the outfield. He said discussions about this with the coaching staff he'll have over the next few weeks, and they have a lot of players who can and would be open to shortstop. Keep in mind, Kim, who's an awesome shortstop.
Yeah, he won't be ready.
Yeah, won't be ready. He's coming off the shoulder surgery and all that. Well, will he definitely not be ready for spring training?
That's what I heard.
No, but also he probably won't. I mean, is he gonna? He's gonna still be a free agent, right? He's not gonna opt.
Yes, you're right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, I think even despite the injuries, he's gonna get paid. So, I mean, does this mean anything? Like, how for me? How can you move either of them back to the infield? Fernando Tatis Jr. won the Platinum Glove 2 years ago, and Jackson Merrill looked damn good and rated above average and kept getting better in center field. I know, I guess technically a more premium position, but it's damn tough to find a center fielder. Yeah. And Jackson Merrill's young, got the young legs. I don't know. I'm good there. And Tatis, I'm never moving him out of right field. What do you guys think?
Not a chance. I mean, Tatis wasn't that great when he was there. Incredible range, but wasn't able to rein that in, and it affected his errors. And you can't take platinum out of right field. Like a platinum glove, they give one out, and he won it. Jackson Merrill, I would have to have seen him play at shortstop, but I'd also have to see who else you're putting in center field. Like you can't just take away a position because he used to play there. To me, the answer is probably going to be Xander. It's going to be, more of like a defensive type of shortstop. It's funny that we're talking about this because at most of the season, every one of their guys was a starting shortstop somewhere. And now they're all Cronenworth started at shortstop. You had, I don't think Arise ever started at shortstop, but to me, no. I think that could be your answer. But they have a team of shortstops, and they're looking for a shortstop. It shows that shortstop is a really, really hard position.
Yeah, and that would have been my first question. Like, who else can they put there? Xander can go there. I'm trying to think, like, do they have anybody up and coming that can play the outfield if they do move them? It's something to discuss. I don't know. It's kind of put you in a tough situation because I feel like they both want to go back there as it's stated there. Is this going to be a problem? I hope it's not. I hope they understand that, they are better outfielders. They've been doing great out there. They got a little chemistry out there. And the coaching staff's like, oh, shoot, we just had this nice little run. I know it's not where we wanted, but hopefully they don't have to make too drastic changes here. And maybe they'll pick up somebody in the offseason off free agency. So that's something to look into as well.
Yeah, Tatis, no chance. Like you guys are saying. Dude, you are freaking stud in right field. That is the spot for him. They were thinking about that.
Cannon too.
Yeah, he's got a cannon. That is the spot for him. Like that's a right fielder for the next X amount of years. He's locked up there
That
for
ship
a long
has
time.
sailed.
So. Yeah, that ship has sailed. That's a good call. And when you look at free agent shortstops, in case they were going to go that route and say, hey, we're going to keep Bogarts at second and we're going to look for someone at shortstop, there's not a ton there. I mean, they're not signing Willy Adames. This is a team that had to cut back, and they spend, right? They take care of their fan base. They put everything into it in the offseason usually too, but they're not signing Willy Adames in my mind. I mean, I say that. AJ Preller's super creative, so you never know, but not likely. I'm trying to find anybody else that would fill that spot well as a shortstop that's a free agent right now. Honestly, can't really find anyone that makes sense. There's not much on the shortstop market this year, you know?
They just got to make sure they're all impacted. Like even if they don't change, just make sure that the players are comfortable with all the situations. Go over every little detail so no stone is left unturned. You know what I mean? So that would be it for me. Make sure they're all comfortable when they listen. You're here for this reason. We got this guy, blah, 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 A's, B's, C's, finish it out.
Yeah. And a good point in here, I've been following him too. I Need Money said Leo DeVry is the shortstop of the future. He is. I mean, he's still young as hell. I mean, I think he's 18, I want to say, but he's one of their top prospects, but he's still a bit away.
AJ wants to trade him. He hadn't even heard. AJ Preller wants to trade him because AJ's traded everybody. So
I think this is the keeper
left over. He might be a keeper, but if you're a couple years away, that's tough. I really think it could be a Xander type of thing, and he doesn't have a ton of range, but he's going to make your routine plays. He's played there because, like you said, it's too hard. And I don't see them spending big in the offseason. I could be wrong, but I don't see them spending big on a Willy Adames type of move.
No, I agree. I don't think so. I think there'll be a lot of competition for him. Padres fans that are in on every prospect might be better than I am on this topic, but I don't think there's anyone in the pipeline that's coming anytime soon, aside from DeVry, who's still years away. If you look at their top 20 from Baseball America, there's only one shortstop on that list, and it's DeVry who we're talking about. He's number 2 overall, so he's oozing with talent, but he's a little ways away. So we'll see what happens. Also, Mike Shilton is going to be a lame duck, but he's not. They're going to give him an extension at some point in the next probably few weeks. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens tomorrow. They're going to get him for at least 2-3 more years. No, you don't let a guy go into the lame duck status like that. Some guys do, but not in this case. I mean, he did a great job.
Agreed.
He got him into the playoffs.
Agreed.
And they looked real strong coming into the end of the season there.
The only reason I would say maybe is because of what came out last year about the whole micromanaging part that AJ Preller kind of struggled with. I think Ken Rosenthal wrote an article in the offseason talking about that. They made the move, but they got rid of the manager who the micromanager was over top of. So the micromanager is still there. It'll be a telling sign. All that he did, all that you heard from San Diego, because they made the playoffs. They didn't miss the playoffs by, not winning one-run games like in 23, but everything was positive. But you still have to remember that the micromanager is there in AJ Preller, and so it's a telling sign. If he hasn't changed, maybe he does go lame duck, but I'd have a hard time believing that he would not get an extension here.
Yeah, I doubt it. All right, got plenty of offseason talk to get to. Let's go back to the big one, Friday night. Postseason money bags. Just giving you a little update on where we're at. We'll do our locks on Friday, but we will look at our BetMGM board today and focus in on strikeouts for the starter who's currently on the board here. The Yanks have Garrett Cole, and the number's 4.5. It's heavy if you're going over at -140. If you're going under, it's +105. Yeah. What do you guys think?
I'm going over first game. He's going to bring in the heat, and I think he's going to, I'd say 6 to 7 range, and I think he's going to have a really, really good performance. Knowing that, game one, he wants to put his best foot forward. He's got a lot of rest time in between, and he's going to be pumping in the cheddar. So I'm going to go about 6 strikeouts, in my opinion.
Kratz, you've also got the long layoff for the Dodgers.
I have made I have made probably in August, I made the decision to never go against Todd on our bets, and it's paid handsomely. But I'm going to go against Todd here.
All right.
Garrett has gone 4 punch outs in the last 3 games. He has gone 5 innings, gave up seven hits, 2 walks. He's gone 7 innings against the Royals. Same thing, no walks, 7 innings, 6 hits, 4 punch outs. And the Guardians, 4 punch outs. Dodgers don't strike out very much outside of the zone. He's going to have a tough time getting strikeouts in the zone. I'm taking the under because I love plus money.
Nice. I love when you guys argue. It's the best part of my day.
He loves plus money.
If you like Step Brothers and you've seen it too many times, just watch Kratz and Todd together. All right. So anyway, if you're new to BetMGM, the first bet offer for you up to $1,500 back in bonus bets when you use the bonus code FOUL, F-O-U-L. Sign up and deposit. You got to put at least $10 into the account. Place that first wager. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if the bet falls. And if that happens, your bonus bets will be available once your initial wager is settled. Gambling problem or concern? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Little bits of news coming out today, so we'll give you one on the Cardinals. It's actually pretty big from Katie Wu, who does an awesome job covering the team for The Athletic. Chaim Bloom's first hire is in, because Bloom's going to be running the front office starting next year. The transition's kind of happening right now with him and John Mozeliak. Rob Serfolio, the director of player development for the Cleveland Guardians, has been hired to oversee player development for the St. Louis Cardinals. Official title is going to be Assistant GM, Player Development and Performance, and he's going to immediately begin a search for a farm director and a director of performance. And guys, this ties all together with Katie's article, which I thought was really, really next level, on how the Cardinals have really fallen back. They were one of the premier organizations on developing talent for a long time, and then they fell way behind because, I'm just summing it up for you, essentially ownership said, yeah, we're not going to give you enough money to like spend to keep up with the league with player payroll and to have enough of a development staff. So you got to kind of pick and choose. So they had to basically have a small staff compared to a team like the Brewers on the developmental coaching side. And now they're like, oh shit, that didn't work. So they're trying to pick up the pace here.
Okay. There you go. It seems like every team's trying to figure out a new job or something for some team. But this is a big one here. So good for them, and we'll see where they can go next with it at the same time. There's a lot of different hires, and this is the off-season hasn't even started. So there's going to be a lot of stuff going on.
But the bones have to be good, Kratz, and that's what they're working on again.
Bones.
Yeah. I mean, look at if you're a Red Sox fan, shocker, we'll get to Kratz hats in a little bit, but
bones.
Chaim Bloom elevated. He didn't hire him. He elevated Brian Abraham to the same position that he just hired Rob for. Like, this is really where the bare bones of an organization start to rebuild when you talk about a team that has a ton of money, but they're not developing big leaguers to the point where they're having success on their big league team. They're developing some big leaguers in the minor leagues, and then they're shipping them off to other places for them to have success. So I think this is I don't know Rob. I may have run across him when I was at the Indians, but if Chaim's hiring him, he has done his research. He knows his guys. He did a great job developing and building that Red Sox organization in the minor leagues on up, and they're going to start seeing those benefits. Cardinals should do the same, and they should trust in Chaim.
One more for you on the Orioles. Britt Giroli reporting they're not bringing back longtime head athletic trainer Brian Ebel, and he had been with Baltimore for 40 years. It was part of this past year's All-Star Game AL training staff, and she said the news comes among a big winter of change as Baltimore's front office also moved on from 3 members of the advanced scouting strategy department, and they'll need to fill 2 out of 3 of Brandon Hyde's staff as well. They're not happy.
Blame game. Here we go.
Blame game, baby. Got to do something.
The trainer didn't cause the Orioles to bow out of the playoffs. Sorry, that's not. My guy put in 40 years. Good for him. He should be celebrated. That is unbelievable. 40 years. 40 years, Todd. He's been with the organization since 1984. That's crazy. That's crazy.
That is crazy.
But, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see who Brandon Hyde, the manager of the Orioles, brings on as his staff.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot of Orioles this offseason because that was looking real good until it wasn't. And they got dusted in the playoffs real quick. Kratz hats, what do you got? And then I got a couple things on the back end.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, nice. A little texture on that beat.
Would you buy that?
Little spring training hat. I was part of the Red Sox organization. That's why, I speak highly of Brian Abraham and Chaim Bloom. They hired me for like a quick minute, but it's cool. Like the spring training hats, like check out that. Like the Florida, the sunglasses. Baby. Only problem is it always says 2021. So anytime you have something with a year on it, you're like, what year can I stop wearing this?
Never.
Ever.
Keep being you, especially when you got to pick so many hats. We did a poll. If everyone likes that in the YouTube chat, we can do that every once in a while. Who has the rotation advantage? Yanks got the edge, 73 to 27%. So they won by a landslide there. And also, Fair Territory is out right now. So FT fam, if you missed it, Ken's got a brand new show with his World Series preview. So go check that out wherever you get your pods, or of course, if you're watching us right now on YouTube, it's there for you. It's on the FT page on the channel right now. And then they'll have another one on Thursday leading with both Alana and Ken. Tomorrow, Ken will be on our show. Tyler Glasnow will be on our show.
TG.
Todd Father will be on our show.
What?
Erik Kratz might be on our show.
Boo. He's got baseball practice. The season done with. What is he doing? That's what they do in Pennsylvania. They cheat. They have practice on days. You're not. I'm calling the board.
Yeah.
I'm calling the board.
You should.
It's optional practice because kids can go out and play on the field without coaches scheduling their practices.
Is this Pennsylvania Board of Baseball Commissions and okay, yeah. This is Todd Father here. Okay.
Todd.
Yep.
Your whole name is Todd Frazier.
I'll call you back. I know you're busy. Okay. Call you right back.
This is why you don't have any friends outside of Tom's River, Todd.
I don't have any friends here either. Hey, I don't have any friends either.
Stitches.
They do get stitches.
And guess what? Coaches aren't allowed, but he's probably in the outfield with binoculars like this. Come on, Johnny.
From his car, sending texts.
I'm going to flatten your ball cart tires. How about that? Next time I see you, it's just going to be just...
I actually got word that we're suspending Kratz for an hour tomorrow. He's only allowed to do 1 to 2.
Yeah.
Let's go. That's facts. Book it. Only 1 hour of Kratz tomorrow. Ryan Bliss, also Seattle Mariners player, in addition to Ken and Glasnow. Come on, hang out tomorrow.
I'm only hanging out half the day, I guess, now.
Don't even show up. You don't even have to come.
And a fine.